listening to Driving Law, a podcast by Kyla about all things related to the rules of the road.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Driving Law. I am Kyla, and with me on his birthday, Paul Doroshenko.
In this week of birthday celebration, your birthday and my birthday, Kyla's was yesterday, and today's Thursday is mine. And let me see. The 19th of May was when I became a lawyer.
Good.
In 2000. When did you become a lawyer? What was the date?
Well, my certificate says May 25th because that was my call ceremony, but it was May 16th, I think, that I took my oath.
Yeah, well, I think it goes by the certificate for most people, but
if you go to the Law Society website, it's got the 16th.
Does it?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. So we've had May is always a big month for those things.
Yeah.
Anyway, your party was a huge party. It was days of party, and it's actually not quite done. We still have one more event to go to.
Even done yet.
Yeah. I'm surprised that you went that big. I've been thinking about the idea of a party. I mean, the most interesting thing was the people that you invited, because there was police officers and sheriff, there was
Crown counsel,
lawyers from the states, crown prosecutors, other defense types, and you name it. It was and of course all your family, and artist, musician. There was a diverse and interesting crowd.
Yeah, it was it was wonderful. I feel very lucky.
Wonderful. Yeah, you are very lucky. You know, you have a charmed life, Kyla.
I was thinking the other
Doesn't
day.
always feel that way, but you got a deal on your trial next week, so I think you do.
Well, one of my trials next week. I have multiple trials next week, but
for the other trial, you're going to win. So, it's not so bad.
I was thinking, how sometimes we've talked about, like, if you could go back and tell yourself when you were in your, high school or middle school, where you are in the world.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about how earlier this week I was testifying at the Senate on the new hate crimes legislation, and then immediately after testifying at a legislative committee on Bill M226, the Xavier's Law legislation that we've talked about on the podcast. And I thought, I don't even know that, like, if I were to, talk to 13-year-old Kyla, she would even understand what any of that is or means.
Well, I mean, you certainly are. It's not a situation where you'd need to go back and give her advice that, to go a different route to get to this. I mean, I think 13-year-old Kyla would be very impressed with Kyla now.
Well, I think 13-year-old Kyla would just really like to know that, I had that many people that came from all over the place to come celebrate my birthday. Because I was very lonely and didn't have any friends then.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Well, I mean, you think about it, Kyla, you made it. Like, in life, you made it. You wonder what you have to do in order to get to the point where you feel like you've made it. And here you are, you were able to have this big party, something that you could afford. It was a big hit for you. But
to sell a property to buy it.
I mean, yeah, but you made that decision. You are hugely successful. You testify at parliamentary committees, and you published books, and you've made it. You've made it. It's good to see. It's quite impressive for me to see how far you came from being an articled student, my articled student, to basically being one of to me, the most impressive lawyer I've ever met. And I've met a lot of lawyers, and here you are, doing your thing, and there may have been advantages to working in this firm that I try and be as supportive as possible of people, but you also figured it out. You could see what you had to do in order to succeed. You were perpetually looking for paths to do a better job for your clients and to explain it, and I mean, it's admirable. It's totally admirable. And you've made it. And I congratulate you. I'm very impressed.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Now let's talk about driving.
Driving law.
Yeah.
It's always driving law.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's almost like it's the name of the podcast or something.
Yeah, how about that? Yeah.
How about that?
I heard you on another podcast. I was watching you on another podcast, and you were asked about the 1,700 episodes of driving law or whatever the heck there are. And the person went on to say, "Oh, well, it's very difficult producing that. There's so much work to it." And I was thinking, Kyla does so many things. Like, it's not like we re-record anything, or the only time we ever have to redo it is if the audio is screwed up or something like that.
Yeah, that feels like agony after we record it. It's usually really good, and then there's some audio error. Oh,
Then we do it an angry version of it.
anyway, speaking of people who are angry, did you know that there are 66 people who are probably pretty angry right now?
Yeah. So RCMP May long weekend came and went. It was the first time no fatalities in British Columbia, apparently.
Really?
BC highways.
The
And
deadliest weekend.
yeah,
Wow.
which it's
That
been,
should be the headline.
it happened like 8 years ago or something. Um, and yeah, the RCMP were heavy enforcement on the Sea to Sky Highway. Lots of people for excessive speeding. Lots of people. And the next place, is going to be the next long weekend, probably in Manning Park, because that's the
Yeah, well,
place that they like to do major
that'll be like
enforcement.
Canada Day weekend usually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's high risk driving month, high risk driving enforcement month for the BC Highway Patrol. And this long weekend, they set a record for the number of excessive speed impoundments. Grant Gakatru would be so jealous because I understand that his record has been broken
Oh,
by a particular officer. Yes.
interesting.
Yes, I've heard all about this. Anyway, so there were 66 vehicles that were impounded over the long weekend from between Lions Bay and Mount Currie from May
A
15th.
lot of work for the tow truck operators. That's like pile of cars on the side of the road waiting to get towed.
Yeah. And on top of the 66 impounds, there were 212 tickets issued.
Wow.
That's a lot of tickets.
A lot of tickets.
Yeah.
Holy.
I guess the busiest day, there were 33 vehicles impounded in one day. So half of the 66 impounds was on one day only. And the previous record in that stretch was 60 impoundments. So
Over a
10%
similar
more.
period. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, apparently there was like warnings, and people were like, they'd been discussed on the internet, and there was probably people flashing lights, and despite the warnings and flashing lights.
There were signs saying police ahead.
Yeah.
Like, which just goes to show you, actually, interesting, because I think either you or I or both of us were asked this recently on TikTok about like whether you flashing your lights to warn somebody that, there's a speed trap ahead is
I was on
obstruction.
Mike Smith talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, it's hard to argue that that could obstruct a peace officer in their duties when they put up signs themselves saying they're doing it and they managed to break their record for impounds.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't stop anybody, did it?
No. Also, that theory about like how posting the location of roadblocks would somehow make it more likely for people to drive drunk. Apparently not. Apparently you're gonna catch them anyway.
It would seem so. It would seem
But
so.
no, here's my theory. They probably didn't have the impounds. Sorry, you're on your phone.
What do you mean? I'm sorry, I have to text back my mom.
Oh yeah, she's
Trying to call
texted
me my birthday.
My theory is they probably didn't have all the people they impounded actually warned by the signs because they were just going so fast they couldn't see the sign.
Well, it could be. You never know.
Too fast to read that sign.
You wonder what's going on in people's cars because, as I've said many times, since the traffic was redirected off Broadway here in Vancouver past our office, and I look out the window and I see these people, and everybody's like, nobody's paying attention to their driving. They're all on their cell phones, and some people are doing all sorts of things they shouldn't really be doing. And I sent you a TikTok video of these AI cameras in Australia. This has been a huge thing. So Australia introduced AI cameras where their AI is looking inside the vehicle, and if they see what the person's doing and it's clear that they're on their phone, then it will identify them as the driver, is my understanding, and they're mailed a ticket. And what they ended up seeing was much worse, which is like people with their legs up, lounging, a woman breastfeeding, no seatbelt on, driving, all sorts of images like that. And I saw a TikTok yesterday that was filmed in Burnaby of a woman driving with a child on her lap, no seatbelt, maybe a 2-year-old on her lap in Burnaby in a minivan. So
Okay.
these people on the Sea to Sky Highway, who knows what they're doing? They might not be even paying attention
Yeah.
at all. If you're in a Tesla, you might have your legs up on the side.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I That makes a lot of sense, actually. Good point. But you reminded me when we were trying to figure out what our topics were this week, we missed the big one.
Which was?
ALPR being used in Vancouver for traffic or for parking ticket enforcement now.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is
Oh.
traffic ticket enforcement has changed so substantially from when I started practicing. When I started practicing, you were issued a parking ticket. You could dispute that ticket. You could go down, the traffic ticket enforcement would show up. You could have a trial. And in fact, some lawyers wouldn't dispute their tickets. They wouldn't pay their tickets. And then when they got like 10 of them, they'd go back and somehow were able to get them registered in dispute. And then they'd go have a trial. And like 6 of the lawyers did this. It was lawyers doing this more than anything. 6 of the 10 would show up, and they 2 of them wouldn't have notes, and so you'd end up with 4 convictions instead of 10. Well, then
Right.
Vancouver went and, the electronic aspect of it changed it entirely. No more handwritten tickets, and they started taking photographs, and they took it away entirely from court, where you couldn't go to court. You get a ticket, and then you phone someone at the city, and then they yell at you about how you're guilty. I'm looking at your photo right now, and you're guilty. You're parked there. You're guilty. But the sign is just hanging in a tree by a string, and it wasn't there when I parked my car. It doesn't matter. That's basically the way that it's gone. And now that's true. Like, that's how it plays out now if you get a parking ticket in Vancouver. And now the method that they've got is they're not even going to give you a parking ticket. They're just going to mail it to you.
Yeah, and they won't like they're using the same ALPR that the police use for like looking for prohibited drivers. I don't
Yeah.
think there's going to be any requirement because it's a parking ticket, right? What's your dispute process? None. You have a dispute, but it's not a meaningful one. There's going to be no requirement that they actually verify the license plate is matching. I mean,
Photograph. Yeah.
yeah, but
Be able to log in and see the photograph.
I guess, but even still, like, do you want to get a parking ticket in the mail and then have to go through the dispute process because some person didn't verify that the ALPR was correctly working? And then think about all the times where there's areas in Vancouver, right, where it's like, except residents of this block, where you don't have to have a permit to park there. You also don't have to be a resident if you're visiting a resident, but they're going to do the ALPR. It's gonna show that you're not a resident. It's gonna issue you the ticket. And then what do? You've rented an Airbnb there and you're going back to Spain and you have the ticket coming in the mail? Like, this is
Who knows
ridiculous.
what they're going to do in those circumstances? They might just use it only on expired meters, Kyla, and no stopping zones.
But what about people who have the defense of necessity? What about the need to exercise discretion? Right? Like, you have parking enforcement officers who, will be standing there writing a ticket. You're 2 minutes late and you show up and you're like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." And they're like, "You know what? Never mind." And they tear up the ticket. There's no more room for individual discretion.
That's so rare these days. But you're right. Yeah, there's lots of good complaints about it. What gets me is, we don't have cops on the beat walking around, right? We probably should have cops wandering around, especially in certain areas of town. Yeah, okay, there might be at Hastings in Maine, but even then, they're in their cars the entire time.
Yeah.
And so bio law enforcement officers who are like out there, visible, wearing uniforms. And I think it's a service to the population of Vancouver to have those people walking around and enforcing the law. but they're also at risk of people assaulting them just because they got a parking ticket. So
That brings me to my next point about it, though. They just, like, less than a month ago, announced they were going to buy body cams, spend our municipal tax dollars, equipping bylaw enforcement officers with body cams, plus all of the associated storage and retention costs and policies and things that go along with that, because of the safety issues. And now they're saying this is the safety issue when now it's no longer going to involve any human interaction at all. So why are they spending the money on the freaking body cams?
well, they probably plan on laying off 2/3 of them, and so they'll have to only buy body cams for a third, and they factor that into their equation.
This,
They're just going to be driving around now. They're not going to be walking around.
yeah, this to me is all just cash grab. Screams cash grab.
Well, it is. That's what parking is, right? Like parking meters are cash grab. That's how one of the ways that cities generate revenue. And if you don't pay for your parking, then there's they have a remedy. As we learned with that guy, speaking with a bylaw enforcement officer the other day, really nice guy. I went and chatted with him after we made that observation that we did the week before. I think we mentioned it in the podcast. Even if you put an old ticket up on your windshield, it's not going to stop them from running your plate to see whether or not you paid for your parking. But I mean, this thing is all automated, and we're going to see more and more automated, which is, why I get back to, I'm not bullish on the future of driving law, because I suspect that more and more we are going to be, it's obvious, governed by robots with no dispute. I was thinking this week about the damage that is caused to people who get IRPs who are innocent.
Right.
And the fact that there's they come out with a complete loss of confidence in their society, in the justice system, in the police. It's shattered. Like everything that's been built to engender trust in the system is completely shattered when you hand it off to an adjudicator who does it on a balance of probabilities, and you can assume is going to be wrong probably 20% of the time, or more. It's just like fundamentally undermines one's confidence in it. And being governed by robots is just like not consistent with, our culture, our society, where we have these legal protections that we've all sort of understood. But then again, like people have a very vague understanding of what their protections are, and a very vague understanding of their relationship with the state.
Yeah.
You and I end up with a fuller understanding that doesn't provide us with confidence either. But it's just going to be more and more AI and robots, and AI, it's so funny because Kyla and I speak to lawyers about AI, and some of the lawyers we speak to are on top of it, and they understand where things are going, where it can be a useful tool for them, how it can be a huge risk for them, and ways of using it as a lever. And then there's all these lawyers I talk to who are just so terrified of even thinking about it. And so many people in society, like you probably saw the graduation speech where the fellow mentioned, AI and this, you'll be able to do AI, and that all of the students were booing him. And I get that. And I feel the same way with respect to automatic enforcement taking photographs of people on their cell phones, and then, but it's not coming. It is coming.
Oh, I thought you double spoke, not, and that you were saying it's not coming, but it is coming. So it's not coming. You meant to say it's not coming. Okay. I was so confused there for a sec.
Coming our way, and it's coming our way so much faster than we expected. And 3 years ago, everything is different than it was 3 years ago.
Everything's different than it was 3 months ago at this point.
I know, but
Wild.
it's like your entire. I feel like my entire life has changed as a result of these things, and I don't have any robots wandering around my office. Are we going to have that within 2 years?
We could. Okay, let's move on. Because there's a case I want to talk about.
Yes.
It doesn't involve
I was
enforcement.
thinking that we just bought a bunch of bottling machines and bottling equipment and a full bottling line for our distillery, and I'm just sitting here.
AI to do
Why
it.
didn't I wait for 3 months and fucking buy a robot?
You can buy one in 3 months. I think your staff might not like that suggestion, though. You know, the people
I've already told them that I'm going to lay off half the bottling line, and they all laughed because the last thing they want to be doing is
bottling. Yeah, fair. Okay, so this is a case out of Alberta, and it's an eating while driving case. So this individual, Buller, he was charged under Alberta's basically distracted driving legislation, which prohibits driving or a vehicle on a highway while engaged in an activity that distracts the individual from the operation of the vehicle, including but not limited to reading or viewing printed materials located within the vehicle other than the instrument gauge device or system, writing, printing, or sketching, engaging in personal grooming or hygiene, and any other prescribed activity. But there are no regulations. So basically, you can't do your makeup or shave while driving. You can't be drawing, writing, or sketching. No jotting down a note at a red light. And no reading while driving.
So, well, in Edmonton, for a good part of my early working life, I worked for the Auto Trader around Edmonton, and I would have to read slips of paper to know where the address was, and know when my next appointment time was, and I'd have to, look at it again because I couldn't just keep it memorized in my mind what the number of the house was. And I had a map, a paper map. So you can't carry a paper map and a note with an address anymore?
No. Can't look at printed material. No maps.
Shit.
Yeah.
Well,
Which is ridiculous.
It's not printed. It's hand printed.
Written or printed.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway.
Post-it note. Can't look at a post-it note in Alberta.
No. So,
Good job, Alberta government.
It's weird. It's weird. Anyway, so this officer sees Mr. Buller, and he's eating with a spoon and a bowl in his hands. And he sees the officer, or the officer thinks he sees him. He puts the spoon and the bowl down, then puts his hands back on the steering wheel. So he's got spoon and bowl, and he's moving through an intersection, no hands on the wheel, which, with lane departure warning and all the features vehicles have these days, that's probably actually not so unsafe to do anymore, except for the fact that you do still need to be in a position to react.
Probably driving with his knee. I was watching a woman driving with her knee here the other day. She looked like she was knitting.
Yeah. Anyway, so he was also not wearing a seatbelt. And the question arose as to whether this constituted distracted driving under the legislation, which, includes but isn't limited to those specific things. And the argument really turned on this issue of eating while driving. And it's a bit of an interesting trial because they actually entered into a voir dire during the traffic court trial, but not on whether or not eating while driving or some admission or something like that. It was a voir dire to determine whether judicial notice could be taken from information that was printed on the Edmonton Police Service's website that said that people are allowed to eat or drink while driving. Not drink alcohol, but drink a beverage while driving. And so Mr. Buller wanted to rely on that and basically said, this information is an authoritative source to suggest
really induced error.
Yeah, well, the court declined to take judicial notice of the information because the judicial justice determined it wasn't relevant, and it also didn't meet the threshold for judicial notice, right? Somebody says something on a website that is not so open and notorious as to not be the subject of
I don't know
debate.
why it would be judicial notice. You would get that evidence in through the police officer. This is
I won't just cross the cop, like print it and put it to the cop.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think he was self-represented.
And there it is,
Yeah, I believe he was self-represented at the, or he had there was an agent, so maybe he had a,
Paralegals in Alberta, it doesn't mean they're good.
Anyway, so the question became one of credibility because there was this dispute about whether or not Mr. Buller's evidence was reliable in terms of what he was actually doing when the officer first observed him and whether his hands were on the wheel. And the judicial justice rejects his evidence and says that it wasn't actually a credibility contest in the end. saying that that despite that, she did accept the officer's evidence that Mr. Buller did allow his vehicle to enter into the intersection, but he actually didn't really remember whether or not he did, so it wasn't a true credibility question. But she accepts the officer did because he had a clear view into Mr. Buller's vehicle. He watched him for at least a few seconds. It was the type of thing that was so unusual it would stick out in the officer's mind. They were both stopped next to each other at a red light. And then the court says the question that remains is whether that activity distracted him from the operation of his vehicle. I find that it did. And so the question really comes down to it's not whether or not you're eating or drinking while driving that constituted the distracted driving here. The court says that, eating while driving is not, in and of itself distracted driving, but it was where Mr. Buller allowed his vehicle to enter into the intersection with no hands on the wheel. Proper operation of a motor vehicle, the court says, is to have at least one hand available to maneuver the steering wheel and control the vehicle, and Mr. Buller did not. And he never, in fact, stated that he did when his vehicle moved forward. And she says, while entering an intersection after a light turns green, a driver must be prepared to act quickly. Another driver could attempt to beat the red light on the cross street. A vehicle traveling in the opposite direction could turn left in front of the vehicles proceeding straight on the green light. A pedestrian could step out into traffic, or an emergency vehicle could enter the intersection against the red light on the cross street on its way to an emergency call. I accept that it is entirely possible for drivers to eat a snack or drink a beverage while they are driving and not be distracted from the operation of their vehicle. They quote a case in which judicial notice was taken of the commonality of eating while driving, but says, after noting that eating while driving is not specifically identified in the Traffic Safety Act as a form of distracted driving, whether or not a particular instance of eating while driving could be a driving offense would depend on whether or not it distracted the driver from the operation of the vehicle. And she says, I'm not finding him guilty because he was eating a snack or drinking a beverage. I'm finding him guilty because he allowed his vehicle to begin entering the intersection after the red light turned green without any hands on the wheel, and while both his hands were busy holding things he had to put down before he could have proper control of his vehicle or put a hand on the steering wheel. It is also significant that one of the items being held was an open container with something in it which is reasonable to infer could spill if not put down carefully. This activity distracted Mr. Buller from not being able to react quickly to common dangers and therefore convicted him.
I think that's a fairly clear reasoning, though. I mean, it's an issue of you not being able to operate your motor vehicle. You made the decision to occupy your hands such that you can't operate your motor vehicle, and you may still be looking at what you're doing, driving down the road, but you're essentially, in the end, actually not showing the care and attention of a diligent driver on the road.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
I used to drive around in my TR6 eating with chopsticks, and I shifted my manual in Edmonton working for the auto trader. Never had a problem, though. No accidents all those years. I was a good knee driver.
There you go. Good knee driver, Paul.
What you're saying, the court in Alberta says you're not allowed to drive with your knee. That's really the upshot of that one.
Yeah. Don't drive with your knees. Keep one hand available to be on the wheel. You don't even actually have to have your hands on the wheel, just available to be on the wheel.
Well, I think that would be because you could be passing a hand and not have a hand on the wheel in between. You don't want to limit it to that.
Yeah.
But you should have a hand on the wheel at all times.
One would hope you do. Yeah.
Well, that's it for so that will clarify things, because I keep getting these people in my DMs. Oh, in Alberta, you're not allowed to eat anything. You're not allowed to have 18-year-old that stays eat anything. That is not correct. In fact, you can eat so long as you're not distracted by your eating.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about our ridiculous driver of the week, because you've, as you said to me earlier today, you've been sending me ridiculous drivers all week. So I've had to pick the good one, the one that I think is best. And I think you know which one I was going to pick.
No, I mean, there was some that were like really threatening and sort of ridiculous driving, but also serious criminal offenses, putting the public at risk. And I didn't know if you would pick one of those. So let's see what you pick.
I picked the Cybertruck driving in the lake in Texas. The guy who was charged.
If he has been charged, then there's a
Yeah.
the danger was to him and his occupants.
Yep. The vehicle has wade mode, so you can drive it in lakes and the ocean, I guess. I don't know why anyone would need to do that, but it's
I
got
think the
that.
idea is to be able to cross small rivers, and that's what like all these guys
I guess, like in Flash
are doing all the time
situations.
when they go off. No, when they go off-roading, they go off-roading events. They like to drive through creeks and
In a
small.
Cybertruck?
Well, no, in their Jeeps. And so the Cybertruck was held out to be a vehicle that, I mean, when it was originally sold, Elon Musk said you're going to be able to just drive it into a lake and it'll float and you can drive along like some of those Chinese SUVs can, strangely. But yeah, that guy drove into the rocky shoreline and you're watching it, you're thinking, he's not getting out of there. Not getting out of there.
No, well, totally dumb. The video is so dumb. But my favorite part of that video, I don't know if you read any of the comments.
No.
The comments were hilarious, but my favorite comment of them all is school banned in America.
Yeah, that's a good one. One wonders what people think.
What persuaded you that that was a good idea?
But okay, so you can draw certain inferences about people who bought Cybertrucks, especially anybody who bought it, since the release and everything, we've learned about what lemons they are. And then anybody who would buy it who is essentially still like ideologically linked to Elon Musk if you're buying it since the last 14 months. I saw one the other day that was dirty.
Okay.
It looked like a dirty kitchen in a restaurant. Like it looked awful. And now there's one that's driving around Vancouver that's all deckled up for a law firm. And I saw it yesterday. Somebody sent it to me. A firm that used to do personal injury is now doing wills and estates, and it's all deckled up for that. I just can't believe anybody would buy one. But I mean, the drivers of them continue to restore my faith in the sense that the drivers of them are not, for the most part, very smart.
Yeah.
People who
Yeah.
are buying them are,
Continues to restore my faith in my ongoing employment.
they made a bad decision buying it, and they're going to make bad decisions driving it.
Yep. Well, that's our podcast. Thanks for doing this on your birthday, Paul. And if you have a driving law related issue, like you, I don't know, got a ticket on the Sea to Sky Highway this weekend, or at any other time, or you drove your Tesla into the water and now you're facing criminal charges, give us a call at 604-685-8889, or find us online at vancouvercriminallaw.com and tune in next week for another exciting episode of Driving Law.